how to make your very own sting-free glowing jellyfish. So to start, go ahead and pull out your bowl and your baggies of paint. I'm gonna start with my green paint here. Since I've already started painting a little bit to check out if it would glow, I already used a little bit of pink, and the next color that I'm gonna use is green. So go ahead and grab your paintbrush, open up your baggie. You might need to scrunch the baggie down a little bit so that you can reach the paint, and then dip your paintbrush in. You don't want to get a lot of paint on it, just a little bit, and then start painting on your bowl. So you will get 3 different colors: green and either orange or yellow or pink, some combination of those 3 colors. And you can paint the outside of your bowl with whatever colors you want to. Just make sure you don't use a heavy layer of paint, because you will need to use all of your leftover paint for the next step. So get your whole bowl covered. If you want to switch colors, you can. You just need to rinse off your paintbrush, dry it, and then grab a different color, and you can paint with your next color. So you can do patterns, you can do little polka dots of different colors, you can do just different blocks of colors like I've done here, or if you want to, you can do little polka dots, stripes back and forth of your different colors. Just make sure you cover the whole bowl. So once you have finished painting the entire outside of your bowl with whatever patterns you wanted to put on it, you don't need to paint the inside, just the outside. And once you've finished covering all of the white space, go ahead and set your bowl aside so that it can dry. And then we're going to move on to our next step, and we're going to measure and cut out our yarn. So make sure that before you do that, go ahead and seal back up your Ziploc baggies of paint so that they don't dry out while we're measuring our yarn, and set those to the side. So first, you're going to take your large ball of white yarn and you're going to measure out 2 feet with either the shorter strand of yarn that you have, or a ruler if you have a ruler. So the shorter strand of yarn that you have in your bag is only 1 foot long, so you'll need to measure 2 strands of it in order to make the length that we need for our jellyfish tentacles. So I'm going to use a ruler, and we're going to measure out 1 and then 2. That's 2 feet, so we're going to cut that there and then measure our next piece. So, and make sure not to stretch the yarn too hard when you're measuring it, otherwise it will shrink back up and it won't be as long as you need it to be. So 1 foot and 2 feet, and then we're going to cut here again. Let's do that one more time. 1 foot and 2 feet. And we've got a little bit of extra on the end, so we'll just leave that there. So that was not the full length that you're going to need. You're going to have to cut out 12 pieces of yarn. I'm just going to cut out 4 to show you, and we're going to do the next step with 4 of your 12 pieces of yarn. So you've got 4 cut out. Go ahead and set your measuring implement to the side and grab one of your 3 bags of paint. So I'm going to grab my green paint, and you're also going to need to get some water and a measuring spoon, specifically a teaspoon. So what you're going to do next is open your Ziploc baggie and carefully measure from your water 1 teaspoon of water. And you're going to dump that into your plastic baggie, seal it shut, and kind of mix it around with the rest of your leftover paint so that it's nice and watery. It mixes best if you try to mix it all in the corner that you started in. Otherwise, you spread it all over the bag. And then once it's pretty much mixed together, then we're going to take our yarn that we just measured out, 4 pieces, and we're going to put them in our Ziploc baggie. So go ahead and put them in the baggie. Seal it shut again. And smush the yarn around in the paint so that you get all of your yarn covered in paint. You might need to do a lot of smushing. So, wiggle it around. Get it all totally covered. You might need to smush it all into the corners where the paint started. And squeeze it in a ball to kind of really soak the paint all the way through your yarn. Just smush, smush, smush until you don't really see any more white left. You only see the color of the paint that you put it in. So I have mostly got all of my white covered. So we're going to move on to our next step. So for this one, you'll need a paper towel and somewhere to either set it out to dry, or you can hang it over like the back of a chair. But you want to make sure you put the paper towel down first so that you protect whatever surface that you're putting this on. Go ahead and set your water to the side and carefully open your Ziploc baggie. And your fingers might get a little bit covered in paint. That's okay, it'll wash off with soap and water. So pull out all your yarn. This we don't need to keep, so you can just throw your baggie away. And then we want to spread out our yarn so that it has a chance to dry out. Try not to let anything overlap very much, or it won't dry as quickly. If you hang it over the back of a chair, it's really easy. You can just hang it right down the middle of your yarn. So go ahead and spread it out. And then this needs to sit and dry for a little bit until you're not getting any more paint on your fingers. So go ahead and set your yarn to the side, or if you've hung it on a chair, just leave it be, and we're going to move on to our next step, okay? For our next step, your bowl that you painted needs to be dry. So once it's dry, you're going to bring it back to where you're crafting and grab a sharp pencil, or you can use a skewer with a grown-up's permission. And then what you're going to do is carefully find the center of your bowl and just a little bit off center, poke a hole. And then a little bit to the left of that, poke another hole. So you might need to widen it a little bit so that your yarn fits through, but that's about what you want to do. Just 2 holes between 1/4 and 1/2 inch apart right in the center of your bowl. And then our next step kind of needs your yarn to be dry, so we're going to fast forward a little bit to when my yarn is dry, and we'll work on the next step. So by now, your yarn that you've painted should have dried. So go ahead and grab it and we're going to lay it out in a bunch. I'm going to grab my other colors. Let's make sure these are all lined up first. Okay. And I made some orange ones, so we're going to lay those out. And I also made some yellow ones. So we've got them all laid out flat. Jellyfish have some tentacles that look kind of wavy like this. So in order to recreate those, what you will need to do is unravel one of your painted pieces of yarn. So this one I have is already unraveled, but I'm going to show you on one of my green ones how to unravel it. So I'm going to pull one of these green ones, and since we're unraveling it, we're going to tie a little bit of a knot in the center so that it doesn't come all the way apart. So there, now we've got a nice knot. And to unravel, you need to kind of untwist your yarn the other way a little bit until you can see individual strands like this, and then you pull those out. You can do it 2 at a time or 1 at a time. Might get a little bit tangled, so you just need to work at it, and you can just untwist part of it. You don't have to untwist the whole length of it. So for this one, I'm just going to untwist a little bit at the ends to make it a little extra frilly, and then we're going to untangle on the other side. Pull it apart like that, pull out one string, and then we're going to pull out another string, and then the last 2 should be pretty easy to untwist. There we go. So just a little bit of frill on this one, and then we're going to lay it out. And then I also have a yellow one that I untwisted all the way earlier. So we're going to lay that one out too. And we want to put the ones with the frills kind of in the center of the bunch so that they end up in the middle. Okay, so got them all bunched up like this. So next, you're going to grab your short, uncut, unpainted piece of yarn that's about 1 foot long, this one, and I've put a little bit of tape on the end so it's easier to thread the yarn through these holes. You can do that if you want to, you don't have to. And then what we're going to do is from the inside of the bowl, we're going to thread up through the hole and leave a little bit dangling down on the end. Oops, I went the wrong direction. Sorry, not up through the hole. You're gonna go down through the bottom like this and pull that through. Leave a little bit on the end and then thread it through your other hole. so that you have kind of a loop here. So you'll need to leave some ends out here on this side, but then you have a loop here. And then you're going to grab your bunch of painted yarn, and we're going to put it through the loop and try to line it up right in the center. So those knots that you tied on the strands that you untwisted, those will serve really well to show kind of where the center of your strands are. Go ahead and press that down, and you're going to hold the bunch there and flip your bowl over. And then you're going to take these two strings and pull up on them really tight. So when you look back on this side, it's holding on really tight to the strands of your jellyfish. Then you're going to take these strings and tie a knot here so that it holds your jellyfish in nice and tight. And then once you've done that, you can trim off the little piece of tape if you use tape. If you didn't use tape, then you don't need to trim anything. And then take your two strands and loop them into a knot like this. Pull the strands through like that. And there you have a nice hanging loop to hang your jellyfish. So when it hangs, it will look kind of like this. Go ahead and let your jellyfish charge for 30 minutes to an hour at least in some really bright light, and then you can test out its glow-in-the-dark capabilities by turning out the lights. And you can see with the lights out that it does indeed glow. Congratulations! You've now made a sting-free glowing jellyfish. Hang it up where you please and enjoy its spooky glow. See you next time!